Hello everyone, I'm Steve, Marc's still working, and this is Smokey, Steve, and Marc. Welcome or welcome back. Happy Thursday indeed. So, I wanted to have a bit of as serious as I can have conversation about a sort of sensitive topic. So, I don't do trigger warnings, so call that your trigger warning. We're going to be discussing, not too much in depth, but addressing the idea of suicide, and it's National Suicide Awareness and Prevention Month. It couldn't go by without saying something. I have experience with a lot of things professionally and personally as it relates to suicide. So I wanted to just touch on a couple things. One, there's already a video of me talking about my multiple suicide attempts. I'll try to find the card or I'll put it in the description. So there's some little more detail there about the number of times I tried and what I did and what happened after. So I know what that looks, I know what suicide looks like from the personal perspective. My perspective. I can't tell everyone's story. I found myself feeling that way after, that was 2009, I guess, 2008, 2009, as a combination of untreated mental illness, which had gone untreated, poorly treated, for about 10 years. And I was a raging alcoholic at the same time. So I was quite the prize, as you can imagine. There was a long line of guys waiting to get to me. And during that period of 2007 to 2012, I drank a lot. I went in and out of drug and alcohol treatment centers, in and out of psych wards. I had scars. I had liver enzymes that were off from overdoses. I had all sorts of things that were happening. I was living in a really odd, bizarre place in my head for those 5 years. And the reasons I wanted to die was because I just wanted the thinking to stop. I just want the shit to stop. And it was, if it meant dying to do it, so be it. So I had several attempts and had hospitalized more than that many times for suicidal ideation or thoughts. And my experience of being at the end of my rope was, no one's going to miss me anyway. The last thing I was holding on to was other people's perceptions. And I thought, you know what? No one's going to care. My parents have 2 other kids. They'll replace me at work. They replaced, what did I hear? Somebody say they replaced Kennedy in 15 minutes, so they could replace me faster. Your job will hit the newspaper before your obit does. That's just work. That's not anywhere specific. But I felt like I wasn't good at work. I felt like I wasn't useful to anyone else. They wouldn't miss me, and they'll get over it. So that's what I kind of thought. So in my head, I had made it okay for them to be okay with it, that they shouldn't have to feel any sort of way. It was nothing they did. They were good parents. You guys were good friends. You're a good doctor. I'm just done. I'm just tired. I just want the shit to stop. So after a few years, 4 or 5, in and out of that, I ended up at a treatment center at the direction of my probation officer, who I had for 5 years after a drunk driving charge. So and it was my second in 2 months. I was feeling suicidal in a reckless sort of way. I didn't have an exact plan all the time, but I was always kind of like, so what? So what if I die? I wish I were anyway, so why bother? So why not binge drink? Why not drink and drive? Why not put yourself into risky situations with people, knowing you're under the influence? It's that I had my Me Too moment too. It's another video. So there's a lot of things that brought me in and around that cesspool, that circling the drain of I'd rather be dead than alive, and if it takes me doing it to myself, I'm willing to get there. And so I played with those thoughts off and on, and then played with the actions that go with those thoughts off and on. 2021? No, 2012. It's been a while. I went to a rehab called Eagleville outside of Philadelphia. It was a co-occurring unit that I had for people who have mental health concerns and drug and alcohol concerns, both at the same time. I had never had that kind of treatment before, integrated treatment. I always just went to rehab and they'd say, see your shrink after, or you go to the psych ward and they tell you to go to AA after, and nobody follows up with anybody. So I got into this place, like I said, at the recommendation of my probation officer, and I had to stay the full 90 days, or it was an escape charge. And I was pretty much just done by the time I ended up there. I was in jail 3 weeks before I went to the rehab. So I sat through jail for April and the first tiny bit of May, sitting and thinking about what a horrible mess I made out of my life, and how there's the only good way for this to end is for me to just end it. So it stops the train of insanity. It stops the train of destruction. There was a whole wake of destruction behind me with all that. And that was more often than not my motivation. to wanting to just drop off, whatever. Alcohol poisoning, who cares? Took too many pills? Well, and I would always joke to people, I was like, oh, the COVID shots came out. I used to, oh God, how many times have I nearly overdosed? I can survive a COVID shot. That kind of dark humor runs in my family, so it's a fine line to be respectful and considerate, but also I have a kind of a slanted way of looking at most things that comes from that. So I started to get better, which was good, so I didn't feel suicidal anymore. But I made a lot of friends over the years in treatment, and everyone in treatment was sick. These are hospitals we were in, and I don't know how many I was in, 6 plus psych wards. So I knew a lot of people, and the recovery rates and remission rates for mental illness and addiction are relatively low. Just unfortunately, they're relatively low. And having both makes it more risky. So I wasn't really certain I could get better. I didn't know what better would look like. I didn't know who'd be around. None of it. So as I go through treatment in Eagleville, I meet 2 guys, Troy and Willie. And I loved Troy and Willie. They used to call us the elder statesmen at the rehab. We would sit and play Trivial Pursuit every night, which made everyone else think we were smart. We were just playing Trivial Pursuit. We were all in the same boat. They would ask us for advice on things. It was fun. We would sit outside after dinner and just talk and bullshit. And it was good stuff. It was as much fun as a rehab could have been. And we all finished. And Troy left first. He left after about 2 months. And then Willie and I had each another month left. And I had grown to be friends with both of them. And with Willie, I was sure he was a friend because the last day of group that I had in our small group, he was part of it. Small group therapy. We had it like 3-4 times a week. And we were talking about what we're grateful for. Because you end every meeting with gratitude. A grateful heart will not use, drink, or whatever. It's something like that. And he said, I'm grateful I have a friend named Steve. My jaw dropped, and the second group was over, I went outside and wept heavily. The idea that someone would call me a friend after so many years of what felt like just slowly fucking over everybody I know, I was like, no, Willie, you don't understand. If you really knew me, you wouldn't like me. He's like, I do, I don't care. He's like, you talk all the time. So, Willie was very much an opposite. Willie, he was short, about 5'8", beard, what was left of some dreadlocks at the bottom, and he worked as a carny. And he was he was younger than me, actually. He was like a couple years younger. And so I started to feel like what friendship would be like, and it felt like being younger, I guess less sick and stuff. So I got out of rehab, started life. So we're doing 12-step meetings, therapy, probation stuff, gotta find a job, all of that at once. And I had all the time in the world to do it because I drank myself a clear schedule. No job to be at. No one's expecting you to come. So that was suicide from my side. Where I started to see it as a friend or family member was when Willie passed away. Troy died a year before he did. He had a heart attack related to his addiction. And then Willie died 2 years after that. And we had exchanged letters and called back and forth and that kind of stuff, but he didn't make it. And it was, I believe, suicide by overdose. It's hard to tease out a cause of death in some of those situations, but knowing Willie, knowing what he had threatened and knowing what he had said in the heat of the moment, I think he was just done and decided he was going to do something about being done. I miss him. I think about him a lot. He was funny. He was my first friend after years, a first real, genuine friend. So I felt the sting of that when he died. Of course, over the years, there's been more friends and family, not family, thank God, friends that have passed away due to addiction or suicide. Most of the places I ran in circles with were people who were either living with addiction, living with mental illness, or recovering from both, and, you occasionally struggle a little bit, excuse me. So I was on the receiving end of some rough emotions when Willie died. And then as more friends, you started to get almost a little numb for how many people I knew that were starting to die from untreated addiction, untreated mental illness, all that kind of stuff. And it was funny, I had a sponsor when I was in AA, and she had said to me, her sponsor told her, welcome to AA, buy a black dress, because you'll be going to a lot of funerals. I don't practice in AA anymore, though I'm still in touch with some of the people, and they were important to me getting well. Those friendships were, and the communication and the phone calls were. Not so much the business of the steps and everything. Not that the steps are bad, but the books it's a little dry, it's a little pretentious, you know. Some people swear by it though, so I guess whatever works. So then getting better, all of a sudden I was going to meetings, so I had a few friends there. They helped me get through when Willie died, because we had fallen so far out of touch, but I thought of him so highly that when I found out he died, I was very upset. I was mad at him. You should have called me. Then I was mad at me. Why didn't I call? Then I was mad at me. Why are you so selfish to make this about you? So, oh God, we were still a work in progress. But on that end, it felt sad. So I loved Willie, but I don't want to end up like him. Some of the things we used to do in treatment to help each other to stay well would be almost like tips and tricks they give people, but getting well and staying well, there's certain things that I've been able to do to put some distance between me and the idea of suicide now. There's people I can talk to that I can comfortably talk to. I have Marc, of course, parents, siblings, coworkers, friends. I have a network of people around me now that if I start to slip, they say something. Somebody will bring it up. I'm not going to get sick behind closed doors like other times and then show up to work out of my mind one day. They actually help keep me in check. And my job description is I'm a certified peer specialist. They have them in the US and abroad. And a peer specialist is a paid position of someone who has mental health concerns, identifies as being in some form of recovery, working on them and living well with them, and then works with other individuals. And it's reimbursed through Medicaid. It's a proper service. And I do that, and then other groups and activities and trainings based around recovery and similar topics. So that helps me stay well. Work helps me stay well. I see my parents once a week. That helps me stay well. I have hobbies. I cook. I dehydrate. Everything. I have kitties. I never had a pet before. And actually, when I was coming home from the hospital in 2020, I ended up, I think I might have just said, I was having a hard time coping with things and I was self-injuring, and I ended up going to the hospital for about 4 or 5 days right before COVID hit. It was like right at the very beginning before that happened. And as soon as I was starting to feel better after that rough spot, everyone worked from home. So the social life with work went away. We were texting, and I was working from home, and Marc was not working from home, so I was home a lot of the time, and it was me and the cats. Me and Bandit mostly, only Oscar the last couple years. And talk about emotional comfort, that if Bandit could talk, I'd tell him to shut up. There's so much that has been dumped onto his furry little head. And as long as I give him some treats and a few squeezes here and there, he seems okay to listen. So there's that. I have not only current therapy and treatment, but 20 years plus of coping skills, of self-care, personal medicine, wellness, recovery, and actions, all that kind of stuff. So I'm able to throw that up. So that's between me and suicide. So it's far away now with the education and experiences I have. It's that much further because I have a supportive environment. It's that much further because my meds work well, and when they don't, I can have an honest discussion with my shrink and we can switch them up. Maybe there's one that can correct speech. So I also have Marc, of course. He's like my rock. He's my right arm. And I just don't feel there's so much more going on in life than I had before. It just seems like, why would I even have wanted to? Why would I have even considered that? You know, all this, well, I didn't see all this then. All I saw then was drinking Listerine in the Burger King bathroom. One bottle, one gulp. And felt like that was some sort of freedom. Somewhere between freedom and death. I don't know. I'll do whatever I want, live my life the way I want. And that's fine when things go well. But when things are going bad and you're insisting to people, I'm doing it my way, and you're falling all over your fucking face, then, you know, I was lucky also to have people who are okay to intervene. So if I'm not doing well mentally and I'm not aware of it, I think I'm fine, Marc's comfortable enough to sit me down and call me out. The parents are enough to do it too. So I have that in between. I have hobbies, friends, pets, work, and it would be silly for me now to think about that. Now, I have to understand also that things come in circles and cycles, and my mind could re-enter a period of shakiness where thoughts like that might not be as far away from me as I want them to be. Maybe I can't stop them coming that often, but I can put up a good fight. And the distance I put between me and suicide is done with all those things. That's how I put up my fight. I don't fight alone. I got a whole crew of coping skills, therapists, partners, spouses, friends, family, 1,000 self-help books, all of that shit between that and me now. And if that fails, I have 988 suicide hotline on my speed dial, because you never know. Life can be tough. So that's, I guess, I don't know, it's so uncomfortable a topic for a lot of folks. I'm glad that there's an awareness month to talk about it, so it kind of starts the conversation a little easier. You know, if you have someone you're worried about, and you want to have a conversation with them, you can find a lot of great evidence-based techniques and tips and tools if you're supporting a friend or someone you're concerned about, if you don't know what to do, if it's you and you need the help. So that's what I just wanted to touch on, and then going forward, resources for other people. So I'll put some in the description, the usuals, for suicide awareness and self-help resources. There's specific ones, of course. I think if you dial 1 when you call 988, it's for veterans. There's the Trevor Project, the Trevor line, where you can call it. It's geared towards LGBTQ positive youth. There's ones for women only. There's a lot of different people that can be reached out to. So we'll provide some of those resources below, and I would definitely encourage you to look into them. The best one, if you don't want to look into shit, is 988, suicide number, and you can text or you can call. So texting is more comfortable for a lot of folks. The old crisis hotline, 741-741, was crisis, and you could talk to anybody. A trained counselor will answer when you ask to speak to somebody when you call there. So that's a first tier option I usually have for a lot of people. I'm like, just keep this number on you. You won't need, if you have it, you won't need it. If there's a plan, things will go okay. But you know, life's unpredictable. It's very unpredictable. So we take precautions. You know, I have that on my phone if I need to call somebody. I haven't, thank God. I've given it to a few other people who said that they needed some help and needed someone to talk to. And I've called those hotlines in the past when I was suicidal, and they do help. Somebody will listen and talk you down. It's okay. So if you're hesitant about using those kind of things because you think it's going to be all hokey and stupid and not helpful, a lot of the people are pretty cool. A lot of them have lived experience with this type of thing too, so they have an extra compassion on top of just being trained. So I'm glad I'm not suicidal today. Very glad. I'm glad I'm not disrupting too many other people's lives with my mental health. Hopefully nobody's, but at least less than it was before. I grieve for those who passed away, and then look forward to continuing to take care of myself and Marc, because there's two of me now, to make sure that we're as mentally fit as possible. So if challenges do come up, we're well equipped to face them, that we're that much further away from doing something, and that we're that much closer to recovering. So thank you all for joining me, and thank you all for watching. Please do subscribe, notification bell to get alerts when we have new videos and go live. We're on Instagram, SmokeySteveAndMarc, Twitter, @SmokeySteveA, and then SmokeySteveAndMarc on Facebook. Email and contact info is below as well. Thank you, and we'll catch up with you soon. So thank you everyone for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for sitting through what could be an uncomfortable topic, for listening to the details of my past, and hopefully some resources if you need them in the future. It's such a big topic, I just wanted to do something to help. So thanks for watching, and we'll catch up with you soon. Bye. Look after yourselves.